parts 1 and 2 of this series, we went to San Francisco and Mississippi to meet two very different yet influential groups of Chinese Americans. In this part, we'll take you to San Gabriel Valley, home to a much newer Chinese immigrant community and the Chinese food mecca of America. This is San Gabriel Valley, or SGV. It's a cluster of suburbs just east of LA and is one of the most Chinese places you'll find in the United States. Coming here feels like being transported to another country, like this floating teapot. I've only seen this one other time, but in China. Chinese people will tell you that this is the place to eat the most legit food. Not surprising since 21 out of the 34 provinces in China are represented in restaurants here. Nowhere is this more obvious than Valley Boulevard, which is lined for miles by Chinese restaurants, shops, and one of my faves, 99 Ranch.
Oh, they got that big bag. We have everything in here.
Here in SGV, you can get real Sichuan food. You can dine like an empress, served by a renowned Beijing chef. And if neither of those work for you, well, there's always classic Hainan chicken from the mall.
We would have Taiwanese sausages over rice and boba after class, so the food really became an integral part of growing up here.
Meet Clarissa Wei, a food writer who grew up here. She's part of LA's 626 generation. They're ABCs, American-born Chinese, whose parents came here from mostly Taiwan and Hong Kong.
And I remember very distinctly in middle school, during show and tell time, all I had to do was talk about what my dad ate that night: octopus, jellyfish, sea cucumber, and people would get a hoot out of it. Growing up, it was, again, Hong Kong and Taiwanese cuisine were the predominant. So that was really in the 90s, and then the next wave was in 2012 when these mainland Chinese restaurateurs started coming in.
These mainland Chinese immigrants brought their own regional cuisines and new money to SGV. This makes them pretty different from, say, the San Francisco or Manhattan Chinatown immigrants, who tend to be more working class and mostly Cantonese. This wave of mainland immigration has changed the housing market a lot in the last decade.
This is definitely not a Chinese house. Wow, JW Pacific looks like a Chinese company.
This is probably not a Chinese house.
Yeah, you can
no, even I can.
Oh, this is definitely Chinese. Yep. Oh wait, no, he's not. This is an example of like what it used to look like, these houses.
So they're
like perfect, yeah, like that one. And then like bam, McMansion. And so when we came here, the property value was around $1 million. And now,
a house like this.
Well, like for a house like the one that, like this, it would be $1 million. But now this is like $3 million, $5 million.
Wow.
And then I would say in 2015 was when Chinese corporations started coming in and opening mega restaurants.
These mega restaurants, as Clarissa calls them, are a very new phenomenon. Where the previous wave of Cantonese immigrants made simple Americanized dishes like chop suey, the new SGV restaurant scene is a mix of decadent and super regionally authentic dishes that some expats say are even better than what they've had in China. Yuqi, who's from Beijing and works over at Chihuo, the Chinese Yelp for expats, took me to one of them.
Hi, Dolly.
Hi, Yuqi, so nice to meet you.
Bistro Na makes you feel like Chinese royalty, from food to price to aesthetic. Everything is imported, including the chef himself.
萨琪玛呢，其实中国呢很多地区都在做，我们做的是北方风味的萨琪玛。
This is like the only one that's familiar to me. I grew up eating this. I call it sake ma. I describe it as a Chinese Rice Krispie.
A lot of younger immigrants like Yuqi came here for school.
And where did you move from?
Oh, from Beijing.
From Beijing to
Yes,
Cincinnati.
to Cincinnati, long distance, right?
Far from home, Yuqi and her friends find comfort in these restaurants that remind them of where they're from.
How does it make you feel whenever you have a Beijing meal like this one?
Oh my God, I feel home. I'm blessed, you know? I'm blessed, yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
在吃这个炸的。
为什么我这个炸的这么大？
你的
It's bigger than my face.
好嘞，好嘞。
Cheers.
Not all of the new restaurants in SGV are this fancy. Some are locally owned by 626ers, like one of Clarissa's favorites, Sai Chick, which serves Cantonese-style Hainan chicken.
What makes this place a 626 kind of place?
Yeah, so if you kind of look around, it's, again, fast casual, so it's the concept, not so much the food that makes it the 626. It's Asian food,
Right.
but also in a very authentic way. A Chinese mom can eat this and be like, oh, it tastes like something from China, but it's packaged in a way that's very palatable for the American Chinese. And so it's the best of both worlds, I think.
The owner of Sai Chick, Johnny Lee, runs this business as a way of preserving the Chinese-American dishes he grew up eating.
There's just no young entrepreneurs like making this food. There's a risk of it kind of disappearing within our community. And because of the changing demographics, you see a lot less Cantonese food available.
Both mainland expats and ABCs agree on what they want out of their food: authentic taste.
The cool thing about this place is you see really a mix of people. So you see people like myself, American-born Chinese. You see expats straight from the mainland who, you know, at the oyster bar behind us, they want to grab oyster and a glass of wine. So this place really just fosters community in the sense that everyone likes it here. Like you can't not like it here.
This diverse Chinese community didn't exist in SGV 40 years ago. It was only in the 70s when Monterey Park started getting more attention, and from there, immigrants moved further out to Alhambra, San Gabriel, and Arcadia.
In Taiwan, there were newspaper advertisements advertising the San Gabriel Valley as like the Chinese Beverly Hills, and that really worked in Taiwan and Hong Kong.
By 1990, Monterey Park had become the first majority Asian American city in the continental US. But according to Professor Jan Lin at Occidental College, not everybody welcomed this change.
I think what's interesting now is that we have Chinese moving into suburban and very affluent communities, but that there are still racial tensions.
Residents didn't like the idea of all these Chinese businesses popping up, so they tried to create an English-only ordinance, but it didn't work.
Originally, people thought that the suburbs were a place that not only where you could find the American dream, buy an American home, but that also, I think that there's a popular understanding that the suburbs are a place where you also assimilate, where you, quote, become American.
I don't know anything about American pop culture. I don't watch Super Bowl, so I...
Me neither.
So that kills a lot of conversation.
This is Annie and Xiaochuan. They both came from China at different times. Annie at age 11, Xiaochuan for college. They're part of a growing number of Chinese international students in the US. From 2000 to 2015, the number of Chinese international students increased fivefold.
A lot of Chinese parents sent their kids here for 3 big reasons, in my opinion. I think the first one is diversity in terms of tradition, ethnicity, food, culture. And the second reason, I think, is the environment. I think it is a lot less pollution here. And the third one is freedom, whether it is political freedom, religious freedom, or simply a freedom of speech.
Annie hopes to go to medical school here to become a doctor, and Xiaochuan is working on his law degree at USC. As we've seen in this series, without the struggle of previous waves of Chinese Americans, thriving communities like SGV wouldn't exist. And there's still more work to be done. But just because we're serving the food, does that mean in the rest of our lives that we actually have a seat at the table?